Hi, thanks for joining me on this video. So appreciate it's not our normal content, but I found something pretty cool in my graphics design tool of choice, specifically Affinity Designer, published by Serif. Reasonable value. I would recommend if you're looking for something paid for that's a little bit more feature rich than Inkscape was for me, but not quite the expensive subscription model of Adobe Illustrator. This is a reasonable middle ground. So I just want to show you this effect that we've got here. It is meant to look like a stitched patch, and you can see that it's actually made of three objects that are nested, well I say nested, layered really, on top of each other, specifically hexagons that have a dotted line stroke. I showed this to my friend who informed me that I may not be doing it in the most efficient of ways. Now, the way I'm doing it allows me to apply special effects such as Gaussian blur to the shadows, and this comes into its own when we do things like apply the pinholes underneath it, which unfortunately are ellipses I've had to lovingly place underneath the various points where the thread would be coming through. So it's, yeah, like I say, it's a reasonably interesting technique. However, it's not the most efficient way of doing it. My friend told me specifically about multi-stroke lines. So for instance, well, let's just show you. With this effect, I've got a series of dotted lines configured with various intervals and phases. So the shadow is let's get rid of those pinholes because they're not relevant. The shadow is a 4200 sequence with phase 1. Then everything from here onwards is a phase 0. The bulk of the colour is a 2-4 sequence, and then the highlights are a 1-5 sequence. The first number is the length of the line, the second number is the length of the gap. When layered, you get something that looks like this. Okay, now equally we could just apply that technique on a single stroke. So let me just draw a single stroke so you can see what that looks like broadly. It's going to look like that. I'm going to make it black just for the purpose of this, and you can see that's a nice 2-point stroke. Lovely. Let's turn it into this, or something pretty close. So first things first is making the shadow stroke. I said it was a dotted line, and I said it was 4, 2, and it was on a phase of 1 if memory serves. I can come back and check that. Next, I need to duplicate that stroke, and you'll see, although we can't see them on the right panel, we can see the multiple strokes up here, and when we select them, that's what I'm going to be configuring. Now, if memory serves, well, let's not use memory, let's just use our eyes. It's 2-4 for the next stroke with a phase 0. Fine. So next one is a 2-4. The last one was a 1-5. You'll note, oh, and it resets the phase to 0, which is annoying, but sorry, resets the phase to 1 rather, which is annoying, but we can just bump, overwrite that with a 0. Lovely. The last one is a 1-5. That's 0. Okay, lovely. Now you'll look at this and go, oh, nothing's going on here. That's because we haven't applied the color. So let's make this a signature green. So I want the bulk of the color to be, well, that sort of signature green that I like. And then the next stroke up, ooh, lost my selection. Next stroke up is going to be a little bit lighter than that. So let's see if I can find swatches. It was that guy, and then a little bit lighter. Now we're going to play with a yellowy hue. There you go. Maybe that way as well. There, lovely. And there's the effect. It hasn't got the shadow line like that because I haven't played with some of the features. Those features aren't necessarily available to a single stroke, and I'll explain why. The reason the shadow sits below the line like that is because the shadow is configured to be aligned to inside the stroke. Now the issue here is that this is a line, it doesn't have an inside and an outside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to configure it to inside, and it will look like nothing for now, and we'll see if that applies to the shape. Trying this live on the recording may be churlish. Right, so All well and good, Craig. You've just done the same thing and you've got one object. Maybe it's tidier from the side view point of view. What's the real benefit here? Well, it's when we come to use styles. So let's get rid of that old one. There's one I made earlier. You'll see here in the styles, I've created a category called threads for things like this, stitch threads. So if I want to be able to apply this stroke style to different objects, I click on the object, click on the menu, and I do add style from selection. I now have this. Okay, it looks like a mess there, but it is a representation of that. Now let's draw a shape. This is a horrible complex shape, isn't it? Ugh, gross. I don't know what I'd use it for, but maybe a child's Christmas party or something, I don't know. Right, and it's a blue stroke, lovely. What we can say categorically is that isn't that. What if I click that star button? It is that now, isn't it? Now you'll see here that that inner stroke looks horrendous, so we'll just tidy that up, put it as was. There you go, that's more like it. And you can see that with a click of a single button, for better for worse, we apply the style that we say from there down there. So in principle, to correct that style, I would change that stroke to center as was. Let's save it again, just for repetition purposes. And we'll delete that object. We'll make a lovely curved square because they're fantastic, like that. There you go. Lovely. You have learnt how to do stitched effects, very basic stitched effects, using nested strokes and the style pane in Affinity Designer. Thanks for joining me.